Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of those movies that stays in your head, which is fitting for a film that comes out vehemently against the virtues of forgetting. The 2004 film, directed by Michel Gondry and written by Charlie Kaufman, stars Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet as two lovers who decide to end their rocky relationship by erasing each other from their minds. It's a quirky and charming concept, but one that doesn't necessarily sound like a film you'd expect people to still talk about, reference, meme, and allude to its tropes nearly 20 years later. So what exactly makes this film as memorable to viewers as Clem and Joel are to each other, compared to plenty of other stories that faded from consciousness? And what makes any story analyzable, sparking viewers to think, talk, debate? Well, we have an answer to this question. Introducing our new series. This is The Total Take, where we break down the most analyzable films and TV shows of all time through visual storytelling, writing, world, symbolism, and impact.
We are introducing a new exclusive video series only for members on Patreon.
We're completely revamping our membership options on Patreon.
And we're creating this new series that we really believe in. It is thoughtful deep dives into prestigious and classic films and TV shows, the ones that we think really merit conversation and thought. We will be creating these premium videos only to be seen by members nowhere else. If you are feeling this deep dive into Eternal Sunshine, we actually have another Total Take up today.
We're also dissecting another inventive, eerily relevant movie about unconventional romance. Head over to The Take's Patreon for our Total Take on Her.
You know, you've spoken and we've heard you. You want more analysis of good films and shows. The old stuff, the new stuff that's not getting enough attention. That's what we want to. But to be honest with you, YouTube has changed a lot in the last few years. The algorithm is not always going to prioritize what is going to be the most thoughtful or enriching thing that you can watch. Does that get to decide what you watch and what we talk about?
As if.
I don't think so. I think that we can still shape our own conversation. This is why we are so excited to be introducing Total Take, your ticket to an ad-free, premium, members-only series where we really give that deep thought to movies and TV shows that deserve it. And your support funds us and allows us to make those videos. Click our link, see all the tiers that are available to you if you are ready for this epic journey through film and TV and pop culture.
Join us in our cinematic oasis, where we dive deep into the movies and shows that matter to us.
We hope that this is what you come to us for, and this is what we really want to be able to provide for you. Sign up now and start talking to us about what you want to see in this series next.
When we talk about a story that's highly analyzable, it's not just about being good or bad. It's about deeper meanings that can yield multiple readings, layers that make the story apply to different contexts, and incredibly memorable themes, imagery, scenes, and performances. So let's jump into our total take on Eternal Sunshine. Our first category is visual storytelling. The cinematography, editing, the former style. How do the visuals tell and elevate the story? Eternal Sunshine's opening shot connects us to its main character. Joel opens his eyes after the shot fades in, as if the camera too is slowly opening its eye. Like the cliche that the eye is the window to the soul, the human eye is cinematic shorthand for the inner world. And with this shot, we're told that this is really a movie about the inside of Joel's mind. In fact, it's not just about that. The inside of Joel's mind is where the film is set. One of the key aspects of Eternal Sunshine's visual storytelling is that it allows us to experience memories as physical spaces. Joel and Clem are walking around his mind like it's got actual rooms we can traverse. Whether that's the bookstore where Clem works, or Joel's childhood memories of hiding under the kitchen table, now in his adult form.
Look at this dress, man! Oh my god, I love it! I wish I could take it with me.
Time and emotions, which are so fluid in actual life, here become something more solid and inhabitable, thus giving them more tangible weight and importance. It's in contrast to how things like emotions and memories are belittled or even vilified by much of our culture, and by the movie's villain, Dr. Howard Mierzwiak, who promises to destroy the powerful emotional cores of memories.
There's an emotional core to each of our memories, and when you eradicate that core, it starts its degradation process.
Due to Eternal Sunshine's technique of making us unsure where we are in someone's mind or in time, all feelings and reminiscences, past or future, get treated as equally important, while Howard diminishes the need for one's feelings and memories by comparing them to lost dreams. Here, we're being subtly told that what he's offering is harmful, because dreams and emotional cores are a key to who we are, not something we should try to damage our brains to get rid of.
Is there any risk of brain damage?
Well, technically speaking, the procedure is brain damage.
Eternal Sunshine's director of photography, Ellen Kuras, spoke about how Gondry was often asking something impossible or contradictory of her. He was adamant about the film being as naturalistic as possible, shooting in real locations and with available lighting, but also wanted to make sure that nothing ever felt conventional or too seamless. For the transitions between the memory world and the real world, Gondry tasked Kuras with finding ways to incorporate old-timey tricks from the early days of cinema that made it clear that the effects were practical and not happening through the use of visual effects. She told the American cinematographer, "That was the enigma of the film to me. We would have these unconventional trompe-l'oeil transitions that were not transparent film language, but the lighting sources had to be naturalistic at the same time. The goal was to make these transitions between reality and Joel's memories as disconcerting and chaotic for us as it is for Joel, allowing us to feel the tension and confusion and heartbreak in a more visceral way. It also helps the film capture the truth of what our memories and romances sometimes feel like, at once emotionally authentic, but also magical and enigmatic." The next category up is symbolism. Does the film have a rich and original system of symbols, and can it work as a parable on multiple layers? Eternal Sunshine creates a highly memorable symbol out of Clementine's hair,
I apply my personality in a paste.
whose colors map onto the seasons of the couple's romance. The faded, burnt-out orangey red of the fall is their late-stage relationship blowout fights. The bright red summer is the passionate, full, happy memory. And the green of the spring when they met, and it was all promise.
It was so intimate. Like we were already lovers.
When her hair is in the shade Blue Ruin, it's the winter of their discontent. They've broken up and erased each other, and they're experiencing isolation, both from each other and from themselves, as both are unable to understand why they feel the way they do. But even in their blue winter, where most of the movie unfolds, there's a new beginning. And just like the seasons of the hair, the movie is positing there's a crucial cyclical aspect to relationships. They need to be renewed and reinvented. Like a plant or a person, a relationship is an organic thing, which is always changing and evolving. This is the meaning of the movie's final shot, or rather, final 3 shots, which repeat the image of Clem and Joel playing on the beach in the snow. We don't know when these take place. Are they early in the relationship, before or after the erasing and the reunion, in the future? The point is, it doesn't matter, because committing to love is committing to repeat and relive these experiences, and strive to make them fresh after we inevitably get bogged down by all of the annoying sameness and rehash conflict. Certain lines speak to this knowingly, like in the opening sequence when Joel is staring right at his ex, Clementine, thinking,
If only I could meet someone new.
and there's another layer of meaning to this. Because Joel has just had his memory erased, perhaps now he can see her anew. What's especially interesting about Eternal Sunshine's use of symbolism is that by creating its own unique symbolic system, it's echoing what happens in any meaningful relationship, romantic or otherwise. People create their own shared language and shorthands based on shared experiences, in-jokes, and knowing each other.
I like it.
You do?
You look like a tangerine.
Ooh, Clementine the tangerine.
The film is commenting on why these private symbols are so precious, whereas the broadly shared Valentine's Day-esque capital R romance symbols that are fed to us aren't. Patrick tries to steal a shortcut to intimacy, taking the jewelry Joel picked for Clem to make her feel he knows her, and adopting Joel's nickname for her.
Tangerine.
How does he know to call you that?
This makes him a villain, but it's actually not so far off how a lot of people try to engineer a quick path to romance. Many people who buy into the chocolate and roses of Valentine's Day think this copying of love symbols is what romance is supposed to be. But it's significant that Patrick's recreation of Clem and Joel's great romantic moment on the ice doesn't work. Because even though Clementine doesn't remember, this replication instinctively makes her feel something is off.
Just exactly where I want to be. I want to go home.
The space of Joel's consciousness is haunted by all these third-party voices that he feels assaulted by.
There's someone here. You stole your underwear.
We also see him reliving the neighbor's comments about his relationship as an intrusive nightmare. So this is a movie for romantic people who may, like Joel, be highly introverted or socially anxious, or who may just relate to this problem of really wanting love, but also feeling burdened by all the pressure our culture places on that, and how it intrudes on what should be a private space. Our next category is the writing. Does the script have originality, inventiveness, and insight? Does the storytelling avoid meaningless cliches and shed light on human nature? What are the piece's takeaways, themes, or purpose? One really interesting aspect of how Eternal Sunshine is put together is that the story structure turns us, the viewers, into detectives. The reason this is especially clever is because it echoes what we all do after a bad breakup. Search for clues to understand what went wrong, when, and why. How we got from the really happy, beautiful memories to this. In the opening sequence, we watch Joel and Clementine meet on the beach in Montauk, as if for the first time. But at the end of this opening sequence, Lacuna Inc. technician Patrick asks Joel,
What are you doing here?
which is a clue that this is actually the future, after both of their memories are erased.
I ditched work today. Took a train out to Montauk. I don't know why.
After the Patrick run-in, we abruptly cut to Joel crying, and on first viewing, we might think we've cut forward to their breakup, but actually we've flashed back, and much of the story from there, within his mind, does progress backwards. We're constantly figuring out not only where we are in the relationship timeline, but whether we're in real time or the mental space of a memory. Just as the movie activates us to echo that post-breakup quest of piecing together what went wrong, it also captures that common attempt to surgically remove the relationship from our lives and act like it never happened. Like when we see Joel physically gathering up all of the stuff that's evidence of their life together into trash bags. When Clementine acts like she doesn't know who Joel is.
Can I help you find something, sir?
It's authentic, but it might also feel familiar to anyone who's seen an ex suddenly act like a stranger and felt betrayed by that harsh withdrawal of intimacy.
Why would she do that to me?
The film makes all these common breakup experiences concrete and literal. When it comes to Clem, Eternal Sunshine ushered in the whole mainstream manic pixie dream girl conversation, but Clem's highly conscious that this is how you're going to see her. She fiercely defends her agency and her right to not be the answer to someone else's story.
I'm just a f***ed up girl who's looking for my own peace of mind. Don't assign me yours.
Interestingly, Clem gives this speech twice in the film, so clearly she has it well memorized because she's used to men expecting her interesting personality to save them. Also interestingly, Joel admits that he completely ignored this warning the first time.
I remember that speech really well. I still thought you were going to save my life, even after that.
Before seeming to ignore it again the second time. Looking at Eternal Sunshine can help us understand more about why people so want the manic pixie dream girl to save them. Because it's more generally about how we're looking for someone exciting and larger than life to rescue us from our real lives and ourselves. It's similar to how Mary escapes into viewing her boss Howard as this great man.
Totally incredible.
What Howard gives to the world?
Yeah.
To let people begin again.
Like Joel, many of us want romance to be this amazing thing that sweeps us off our feet and overwhelms us with constant excitement. But the truth is that intimacy is the opposite of that. The more we know things, the more they can become boring and insufferable.
She's gonna be drunk and stupid now.
Hey, would you do me a favor and clean the goddamn hair off the soap when you're done in the shower?
As this movie exposes, a sad irony about relationships is that the things we most love and are attracted to in a partner become the very things we criticize and even detest about them.
You were in that orange sweatshirt that I would come to know so well, and even hate eventually.
Joel, like Patrick and other men, are drawn to Clem's impulsivity, but when we see the couple in their low points, precisely all of those exciting, dramatic parts about her that were so seductive have become incredibly off-putting to him. It's only through this process of losing her that he remembers how much he loved these attributes.
You erased me. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this in the first place.
I'm sorry.
You.
You know me, I'm impulsive.
That's what I love about you.
All of this leads to the insight of Eternal Sunshine into human relationships and romance. A big goal of this movie is to make us see the beauty and value of intimacy, but as it really is, not as Hallmark-style cliches that brainwash us to misunderstand romance. The magic of Joel and Clem's love is all down to their intimacy, truly knowing another person with all the boring, ugly messiness that entails. In addition to the manic pixie dream girl, this movie contains a critique of the fake nice guy, a trope we've talked about a lot before.
Never really had much luck with the ladies.
Maybe if you stop stealing their panties.
Patrick acts like a nice, sensitive guy to Clem's face, but of course he's stealing Joel's memories to pretend he magically gets her and fake support her.
After we did her, I kind of went to where she works and
pass her out.
This is Patrick? Do you have any idea how unethical?
The relationship is based on dishonesty and exploitation, much like Howard's creepy, imbalanced power dynamic with Mary. But while Patrick acts as a hateable foil to Joel, to make the protagonist look better, the movie is also critiquing Joel and his niceness. Clem is constantly talking about how nice Joel is.
You're really nice.
Oh.
God, I have to stop saying that.
It's something that she loves about him, but also a quality she finds infuriating and even threatening.
I don't need nice. I don't need myself to be it, and I don't need anybody else to be it at me.
As Clem keeps repeating that Joel is nice, the script leads us to question what she really means, or what nice even is. Sometimes it seems to signal that he's shy or scared of things, because numerous times he backs away from her out of fear.
I walked out the door.
Why?
I don't know. I felt like a scared little kid. I was like, it was above my head. I don't know.
Hiding behind a nice can be a cop-out. Meanwhile, over time, Joel is decidedly not that nice to her. We hear him say a lot of things to her that are viciously cruel.
Clem, do you really think you could take care of a kid?
What? I don't constantly talk. I'm really pissed that you said that to me.
Sorry. Just really just isn't that interesting.
And the narrative inside his head is harsh.
I mean, she's smart, I think, but not educated.
Yet, ultimately, Joel does put in the work that Patrick doesn't to get to know Clem. And he does, in his best moments, fully accept her. Perhaps this is what the only valuable or real version of nice is, in this movie's view. To be able to fully know someone and accept them as they are. The joyful release of the couple's final moment that we see is them pre-accepting each other to start this cycle again.
I can't see anything that I don't like about you.
You will think of things, and I'll get bored with you and feel trapped because that's what happens with me.
Okay.
And while, of course, the nasty parts of their cycle will most certainly repeat, it's their commitment to accepting that natural course that is true love.
Okay.
The love between Clem and Joel ultimately boils down to something really simple. Life is worse without the other person in it. As Clem disappears from each of Joel's memories, all these beautiful moments suddenly become empty. Dead. And even after all this has been erased and he's heard his past self on tape freely complaining about her, he still has a deep impulse to stop her from going.
What?
I don't know.
What
Just
do you
wait.
want, Joel?
Just wait. I don't know. I want you to wait for him. Just a while.
The next category we look at is world. How does the film use tone, atmosphere, performances, music, or sound design to build a particular world that's memorable, evocative, or takes us somewhere that makes us feel something? We've already seen a lot that's striking about how the world of Eternal Sunshine physicalizes Joel's mind, and how the atmosphere is a contradictory mix of realistic and whimsical. For subject matter that can sometimes seem a little dark or depressing, the tone is infectiously playful. At times it feels to be affectionately poking fun at overthinking, melancholy types like Joel.
Sand is overrated. It's just tiny little rocks.
And this playfulness is embodied in Clementine's character herself. She's a human streak of color and zest for living. Clementine was a role that went against the type Kate Winslet had previously been associated with. Most of her most notable prior roles were period pieces. With Eternal Sunshine, Kate proved that she could bring gravitas and, importantly, relatability to a messy, modern character. Despite all the MPDG talk, Clementine doesn't fall neatly into any trope, but instead all of her exuberance and spontaneity, depth and flaws all come together to create a wonderfully specific portrait of a woman on her own journey of the self. Kate's charm, combined with her deep understanding of Clementine's interiority, allowed her to create this character that was at once endearing and difficult. Kate also wasn't afraid to make her mark on the character. In an interview with the Daily Beast, Gondry noted that Kate was the only actress that auditioned for the part that gave him any critical feedback, and that was when he knew she was the one. Jim Carrey went even more against type for Joel. Mega famous for his high-energy comedic roles, Carrey had to tone his standout funny side way down, and instead focus on the qualities that made Joel an indie everyman. In fact, Gondry even added restrictions for Carrey. Gondry told the Daily Beast, "Sometimes I had to talk to Kate Winslet in a different room to tell her, go as big as you want, this is a comedy." And to Jim, I'd say, this is a drama, not a comedy. Boiling down the role to the key human elements that makes Joel feel normal allows him to more readily become the vehicle through which which we as an audience experience the story. Both characters feel realistic to us, but the story doesn't care about making us always like them or see ourselves in them, the way romantic heroes and heroines so often have to win us over to cheer on their love. We might not all particularly root for Clem and Joel as individuals over any others, but as a couple, there's a deeper truth to their struggle that feels universally relatable and profound. Another haunting aspect about the movie's world is the music of John Bryan, which feels very of its era yet captures the emotional sensibility of the movie's balancing act between charm and suffering. The score is nostalgic, occasionally whimsical, and rides from poppy highs to melancholic lows, working to keep us in touch with the heart of every moment, even as we watch this world shift and change again and again. And our final category to discuss is impact. Has the piece sparked debate, thought, and conversation with longevity? Has it impacted other works and the cultural conversation? And does its influence weirdly hold up over time? Eternal Sunshine arguably has shaped the tone and feel of many of the most thoughtful romantic movies that followed, and also tried to do something creative or different with their structure or takeaways. A lot of the impact here has to do with what we've just seen in the writing, the dissection of the MPDG and nice guy tropes before people were talking about this, the understanding of intimacy. But we'd also argue a reason the script still feels impactful and influential is because it arrives at conclusions that are surprising, counterintuitive, and sometimes contrarian. A really interesting theme in this movie is the debate between innocence or forgetting versus jaded knowledge and the pain of existence. This is where the title of the movie comes from. It's a reference to lines from an Alexander Pope poem that Mary recites.
How happy is the blameless vessel's lot, the world forgetting by the world forgot. Eternal sunshine of a spotless mind.
Mary at first believes that Howard helping people forget is kind and generous. She speaks of the superiority of babies.
You look at a baby and it's so pure and so free and so clean.
But Clementine and Joel express a different view of how disempowered they both felt as kids.
Sometimes I think people don't understand how lonely it is to be a kid. Like, you don't matter.
Mary herself feels similar to a baby because she, and we eventually learn, her married boss Howard has erased the memory of the affair she's already had with him. And how is this naive, baby-like state serving her? Not very well, it turns out. She's back to harboring a schoolgirl crush on the guy who exploited her. She doesn't even know she's been mistreated, and she's living a thoughtless existence, helping him carry out this procedure on countless others, and causing damage because she's not fully understanding what this work really is. When her memory is restored to her in the end, she's suddenly both more mature and a lot more sad. The camera lingers on a shot of her face looking distinctly worried and pained. But because of this, she's able to make a choice that's difficult and brave, returning everyone's tapes and files, to give them the agency to choose with all information available to them. Ultimately, the film is coming out very much against forgetting, or trying to delete a complicated history in favor of something shiny and new. While our culture may constantly be chasing youth and perfection and the lack of wrinkles, wiping the slate clean isn't all it's cracked up to be. Ultimately, Eternal Sunshine is a movie that could get dated in its sensibility. From the music, to the 2000s indie hairstyles and hipster types, to the tortured emotionality of Joel. So, all in all, what makes it ultimately able to retain analytical value and spark conversation? To put it all together, it's the timelessness of its relationship insights, the philosophical depth of its questions about innocence versus knowledge, its rich and unique symbolic world, the dealing with tropes that are surprisingly persistent and still relevant, the memorable, endearing, and resonant characters and performances, and the innovative structure and form of the storytelling, which serve to express the theme of the cyclical nature of relationships, and the takeaway that, despite all this pain, love and remembering are worth it.
I'll walk you through really quickly what are some of the tiers you can join. With our Clever Critic tier, you'll get access to all of our premium members-only videos if you sign up as the Directorial Genius. We call it the Directorial Genius because you get to be a director of sorts by helping select what we are going to feature in the series each month. And if you want to go bigger, become our power producer. That means you get behind the scenes trivia, recommendations for what to watch. You get other kinds of exclusive surprises and really just be involved in our process. And we really hope you're going to check out what we're offering on Patreon, because we envision this as a special place where we can come together. We can talk about the films and TV shows and pop culture that we think really is worth conversing about, debating about, and really giving deep, serious thought to. Check out the links, look at what we're doing, and anything that you can contribute and be involved in helps and goes a long way.